Good morning students. Today we are starting our new curriculum subject for third semester of Diploma in Civil Engineering, that is building construction. This subject is having 70 marks theory paper and 30 marks internal assessment for micro project, unit test 1 and unit test 2. Also, it is having internal practical assessment of 25 marks along with end semester exam of 25 marks. So, what is the need of this building construction in our day-to-day life? First, we will see this. So, housing is an important indicator of the level of country's social progress. Besides food and clothing, man's next basic need is shelter. He requires shelter for protecting himself against natural calamities, wild animals, and from other fellow things. The history of mankind reveals that the man has been molding his environment consciously or unconsciously throughout the ages. From the cave, his early abode, down to the most sophisticated air-conditioned housing of today. It is an absorbing and thought-provoking study of man's progress and the advances in the various fields. So, as we all know, first the man lives in the caves. After that, his needs are going increased, and according to those needs he started to build the buildings. And nowadays we are having fully sophisticated air conditioner buildings for our living things. So in the today's society, the living standards are based on the houses, how we are living in the houses. So that gives the living standards of the people. So according to the needs of the peoples, according to the living standards of the people, nowadays building construction is the most important part of the human life. So that's why this subject is included in the curriculum. So in this whole subject we are going to see what are the various types of buildings, what are the various components of buildings, what are the various functions of those buildings, and what are the various materials by which we are going to construct the buildings. So first we will see the syllabus content according to the MSBT. So this is the copy of syllabus. In this unit number first, that is the overview of building component. In this unit we are going to see the classification of building as per the National Building Code and as per the type of constructions. The second point, that is the building component. What are the various building components such as wall, partition walls, cavity walls, seal, lintel, door, windows, floors, roofs, column, beam. So these are the various components and what are those functions that we are going to see in the unit number first. In the unit number second, that is the construction of substructure. In this unit we are going to see the job layout for the various construction sites. In this job layout, what we are going to see, that is the site clearance, preparing a job layout, layout for the load bearing and framed structure with the help of center line and face line method. The second point in the unit number second, that is the earthwork, that is the excavation for the foundation, the timbering and strutting, the earthwork for embankment, material for the plinth filling, that we are going to see in the second point of the unit number second. Then third point in the unit number second, that is the foundation. So this is the main component which is included in the substructure. So this component, foundation, the types of foundations, that is shallow foundation, deep foundations, the various types of footings and the functions of foundation that can be studied in the unit number 2nd. Unit number 3rd. In this unit number 3rd, we are going to see the construction of superstructure. So superstructure, this includes the construction of walls, slabs, columns, beams. So this includes the study of stone masonry, brick masonry and the scaffoldings required for the construction of beams, columns, slabs, etc. So this all includes in the unit number 3rd. Next, that is unit number 4. This unit number 4, it is the building communication and ventilation. The building communication that refers to the horizontal communication in the building. So it includes the doors and windows provided in the building. Types of doors, types of windows present in the building. What are the various materials which can be used for the preparation of doors and windows. Now the ventilation and vertical communication, it is in the case of the vertical transformations in the building. So vertical communication, it is the study of staircases, ramp, lift, elevators and escalators. So unit number 4 includes the study of doors, windows, then fixtures and fastenings used in the doors and windows, the material used for ceiling purpose and the vertical communication. So this whole includes in the unit number 4. Unit number 5, that is the building finishes. In this building finishes, we are going to learn about the plastering and painting, floors and roofs in the building. What are the various type of tiles used for the flooring purpose? What are the various types of wall finishes? That is, what are the various types of plastering, for internal plastering, for external plastering? Which types of materials are used? What are the various types of painting? That is, we are going to see in the unit number 5. Then unit number 6, that is the building maintenance. So after constructing a building, if there is any maintenance required for that building, that is in the case of cracks, in the case of settlement of foundation, in the case of demolition and in the case of waterproofing. So this we are going to see in the unit number 6. So in this whole syllabus, we are going to learn about the building constructions. Now we will start with the unit number 1st, that is overview of building components. So first we will see the definition of building. In general, the building is defined as any structure built for any purpose with any material for any use and which includes foundation, plinth, walls, roofs, floors, chimneys, plumbing and building service. So this building, it is defined as the any structure for whatsoever purpose and of whatsoever material constructed and every part thereof whether used as a human habitation or not and include a foundation, plinth, walls, floors, plumbing and building services. This structure, it is known as a building. So in this we are knowing the various points such as foundation, plinth, superstructure, etc. So these are the various components of the buildings with the help of which we can define a building. So foundation, it is the lowest artificially prepared part below the surface of the surrounding ground, which is in the direct contact with substrata and which transmits all the load to the subsoil. So the foundation, it is the base part of the building, which is below the ground surface and which is directly in the contact with the soil, and which transfers all the load of the building to the subsoil. Second part, that is the plinth. It is the middle part of the structure, above the surface of the surrounding ground up to the surface of the floor, immediately above the ground. Means this plinth, it is in between the foundation and superstructure. It is above the ground surface and below the floor surface. So this is the part of the plinth. And next, that is the superstructure. The part of the structure constructed above the plinth level is termed as a superstructure. So whatever building we are seeing with our eyes above the plinth level, that whole all parts, those comes into the superstructure. So the building, it is constructed or it can be introduced with the help of these three parts, that is the foundation, plinth and superstructure. Now we will see the classification of building. So these buildings are classified on the two bases. First one, that is based on the occupancy or according to the national code, and second, according to the type of construction. So first we will see the classification based on the occupancy and defined or identified in the National Building Code of the India. So according to this occupancy, the buildings are classified under these groups. Group A, it is residential building. Group B, that is educational building. Group C, that is the institutional building. Group D, that is the assembly building. Group E, business building. Group F, that is mercantile building. Group G, that is the industrial building. Group H, that is the storage building, and Group I, that is the hazardous building. So the whole buildings are classified under these groups according to the national code or based on the occupancy. Now we will see the classification based upon occupancy one by one. So first, that is the residential building. So these residential buildings are those buildings in which sleeping accommodation is provided for residing permanently or temporarily with or without cooking or dining, or both facilities are termed as residential building. So these residential buildings are generally used for the residing for various purposes. So this residential building includes bungalows, flats, cottages, huts, hotels, chals, etc. So whatever the buildings we are going to use for the residential purpose, for the sleeping accommodation purpose, for the cooking purpose, for dining purpose, so those all buildings are known as a residential building. The second, that is the educational building. So educational buildings, these are meant for running schools, colleges, training institutions, libraries, universities, etc. The educational buildings are those buildings which are meant for education from a nursery to the university, all included in this group. For example, school, colleges, universities, training institutes, etc. However, National Building Code of India recommends that these buildings should be used for education or for imparting instructions for more than 8 hours per week. These buildings provide facilities like classrooms, staff cabins, drawing rooms, laboratories, administrative blocks, assembly halls for instructions or educations or recreations, library, play fields, gymnasiums, etc. So, the education buildings are those buildings in which we are educating the peoples in the various fields. That is categorized into the group number second, that is the educational building. Now, third, that is the institutional buildings. This group includes any building. This group include any buildings or part thereof which is used for the purpose such as medical, health recovering, health after illness, physical or mental disease, care of infants or aged persons, panel detection, etc. These buildings are normally provide a sleeping accommodation for the occupants. These buildings are further subdivided into three groups. First, that is the hospitals and sanatoria. Second, that is the custodian institutions, and third, that is the panel institutions. So, it means a building constructed by the government or semi-government organization or the public sectors or the charitable trust. These buildings are utilized for public activities such as education, medical, recreational and cultural, auditorium, orphans, etc. It is also used for treatment or care of the persons suffering from physical and mental illness. So these are known as the institutional buildings. Now the group number 4, that is the assembly buildings. This group includes any building where groups of people assemble or gather for amusement, recreation, social, religious or similar purpose. For example, theaters, cinema halls, assembly halls, auditoria, exhibition hall, museums. These types of buildings are classified as assembly buildings. So, these buildings are meant for assembly or large number of people of amusement, recreation, social, religion, civil or similar purpose. So, in this category we can consider various theaters, halls, auditoria, museum, gymnasiums, restaurants, temple, church, etc. So these all types of buildings are categorized as assembly buildings in which number of peoples come together for various purposes. The next type of building, that is the business buildings. This group includes any building or part of the building which is used for purposes such as transactions of business, keeping of account and records, etc. So, dispensaries and clinics, news stands, barber shops, bank, city halls, courthouses or libraries, etc. are categorized in the business building. So, these business buildings are meant for running the businesses, for the transactions, keepings of accounts, for the keepings of records and for similar purposes. The next type of building according to the occupancy, that is the mercantile buildings. They are used as shops, stores, markets for displaying and sale of merchandise, either wholesale or retail. So this group includes any building or part of the building which is used as a shop, stores, market for sale and display of the products or wares either wholesale or retail. These buildings are known as a mercantile buildings. The next type of building, that is the industrial building. So this industrial buildings, there are the buildings in which products or the materials of all kinds and properties are fabricated, assembled or processed. They accommodate the plants and machinery, refineries, power plants, dairies, sawmills, cleaning plants, plumbing stations, etc. So, the industrial buildings, this group include any building or the part of a building or the structure in which the products of different kinds and different properties are fabricated, assembled or processed. For example, the laboratories, assembly plants, then laundries, gas plants, power plants, refineries, dairies, etc. So, the building under these groups are further classified into three groups, namely G1, G2 and G3, depending upon the hazards of occupancy as low, moderate and high respectively. The next type of building, that is the storage building. This group include those building structures which are primarily used for the storage or sheltering of goods, wares or merchandise. Vehicles or animals, for example warehouses, cold storages, fire trade depots, storehouses, transmit sheds, truck terminals, garages, etc. These are termed as the storage buildings. So these storage buildings are used for storage or sheltering of goods, water and vehicle. So in this category we can consider the following types of buildings, that is the water houses, cold storage, then godowns, then fire tight depots, transit sheds, storehouses, garages, etc. And the last one that is not included in this presentation, that is the hazardous buildings. This group includes those building structures which are used for the storage, handling, manufacture or the processing of materials which are liable to burn with extreme rapidly and proved hazardous to the health, buildings or the building contents. Hazards may be due to the fire, poisonous fumes or gases, explosions or ignitions, etc. From materials subjected to various operations. Buildings used for storage of gases under high pressure or for storage and handling of highly flammable liquids or explosives materials, or for manufacturing of synthetic leather, explosives, fireworks, etc. are included in this group. So this is the last type of the building classified according to the occupancy, that is the hazardous building. So these are the various types of buildings which are classified according to the functioning of that building or according to the occupancy of building. So we will just repeat those, that is residential building, then educational building, then institutional building, then assembly building, business building, mercantile buildings, industrial buildings, storage buildings and hazardous buildings. So these are the various kinds of buildings or the types of buildings according to the occupancy of the building. So we will just summarize the session. That is, in this whole presentation we have learned about what is the building, what is the definition of building, then the classification of building based on two categories. First one based on the occupancy, second that is the based on the type of structure. So based on the occupancy, the buildings are classified as residential building, then educational building, institutional buildings, assembly buildings, business building, mercantile building, industrial building, storage building and hazardous building. Now we will see just the functions of various types of buildings. That is, residential building, it is used for the sleeping accommodation, for residing permanently or temporarily with or without cooking and dining facilities. Then educational buildings, these buildings are used for educating the peoples living in those societies, that is the schools, colleges, universities, training institutions, etc. Then the institutional buildings, these buildings includes used for the purposes such as medical, health, recovering health after illness, physical or mental diseases and care of infants. So those buildings are known as institutional buildings. Then assembly buildings, these types of buildings are used for by more than number of peoples or peoples assembled together or grouped together or come together for celebrating some things. So these buildings are known as assembly buildings. So these may be theaters, cinema halls, assembly halls, auditoriums, exhibition halls, etc. Next, that is the business building. This group of buildings, those are used for the business purpose only, that is for the transaction, for keeping the accounts and records, dispensaries and clinics. These are known as the business buildings. Next, that is the mercantile buildings. This group include the buildings or the part of buildings which are used for the shops, for the stores, for the market of selling in the wholesale or retail purpose. So these are known as a mercantile building. Then the industrial buildings. This group include the building or the part of building structure in which the products of different kinds and properties are fabricated or assembled or processed together. So these types of buildings are known as the industrial buildings. Next, that is the storage building. So these buildings are mainly used for the storing of goods, vehicles or waters or animals. These are known as a storage building. For example, the warehouses, cold storages, gas houses, truck terminals, those are known as a storage buildings. And the last type, that is the hazardous buildings, which are used for the purpose of storing the hazardous materials or poisonous materials in the gaseous form or in the solid form or in the liquid form. These types of buildings are known as hazardous building. So in this way we are just seen the types of buildings according to the occupancy or according to the National Building Code. Now in the next session we are going to see the various types of buildings according to the types of structures, that is the load bearing structure, framed structure and composite structure. So these three types of structures or these three types of buildings, those we are seeing in our next video. So in this today's video we have just learned about this whole syllabus of the subject, then the types of buildings based on occupancy, and the building and what is the need of the building constructions. Thank you.